So we've just finished an interesting discussion with Eleni, who has elaborated on the procurement of the PITAP project. We now have with us Petro Shayana Woku, who brings a very interesting skill set. He looks after the trade economics and legal side of things for the PITAP, and he's an advisor in this area. Good afternoon, Petro.
Good afternoon, Anthea.
Could you please tell us a little bit more about the role that you play in the PITAP project?
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Like you rightly said, I'm a trade economist responsible for the legal matters relating to the trade agreement. So that means I take care of the trade negotiations. I'm the custodian of the negotiating text, the legal text. You know, as negotiations go on, we have to keep track of the legal text that is agreed. I'm also responsible for drafting the legal text. So after negotiation, there's an agreed text. It's my responsibility to draft it and also draft new proposals for the negotiators to consider. So apart from that, I also provide technical and legal advisory support to the trade negotiators. So during the negotiations, not every one of them is experienced in matters of trade negotiations or in matters of trade in general. So it is my responsibility to explain, to interpret certain provisions in the draft text, to explain certain rules about trade, to explain to them. So I provide that support, and I provide the support in a non-partisan manner, because as Secretariat, we are servants of the members. We serve all the members, so there's no bias. You have to explain to everyone and help them come up with a position. They make the position themselves, and you just explain to help them. So that's basically my role in general.
You definitely play an important role in building up capacity as well. What are some of the most notable specific achievements under this project that you've achieved?
Well, the first one is the building of capacity. I have been able to help the members, officials, enhance their capacities in negotiating trade, capacities in understanding how trade works. And I'm pleased to say that by the end of the negotiations, the several rounds we had, there was a noticeable improvement in their proficiency in trade negotiations. And the major milestone or achievement, of course, was the concluded Melanesian Free Trade Agreement, which was endorsed by the leaders in July in their Special Leaders Summit and is waiting for their signature. So that signifies the milestone and what the members and ourselves through this project have been working towards. So that's the biggest milestone, the concluded trade agreement.
Now, with this free trade agreement, how do you think that it will help the MSG economies improve?
The whole purpose of the trade agreement is enunciated by the leaders in their various summits before, is to deepen economic integration in the region. There is already trade happening between and among the MSG member states, but this agreement will see it deepen. Deepen in what sense? Because already we have a trade agreement, an MSG trade agreement. It will deepen in the sense that this new agreement now removes barriers to not just trade in goods, barriers to trade in services, cross-border investment, labor mobility, and other things. So it's more comprehensive. It creates more opportunities for businesses in the MSG to trade and to invest in the MSG countries without much restriction and obstacles. It also, the agreement also creates a an environment where trade and investment, cross-border trade and investment, can take place under conditions of fair, transparent, and competitive environment. Thank you.
So this is a huge milestone, removing some of the barriers. Going forward, what do you think is next? What's the next big achievement for this trade agreement?
The next big achievement. The next big achievement is for members, what members need to do now is to work on their domestic policies, domestic laws, to leverage this trade agreement, because it is as it is when it's signed and ratified. It's just a document. It will not give the benefits that it's supposed to give. So what it needs is that our national governments, our members, must now embrace it, domesticate it in their own laws and policies, create the necessary conducive environment for business to thrive. And when business thrives, then they can take advantage of the opportunities that it creates. And it's pleasing to note that we also, through the PITAP, have come up with a private sector development strategy. My colleague Henry will probably talk about that. That is meant to develop our industries. And in so doing, when they are developed, they become export ready. They can then export to each other, taking advantage of this trade agreement, which opens up the market in the whole MSG region.
So Petro, to round up our discussion, are there any last words that you'd like to leave with us?
Yes, I would like to thank the European Union for funding PITAP. I'd like to thank the Pacific Islands Forum for facilitating this project, the funding for the project. I also wish to thank the MSG members for their cooperation during the whole implementation period of PITAP. I'd like to thank again the MSG Secretariat Management for giving me the opportunity to participate in this project. And lastly, I would like to thank my colleagues, the PITAP team, for the great teamwork and the diligence in executing this project.